Welcome to Lifting the Line, a construction contracting podcast. Andrew Crossin from Crossin Bricklaying in Tasmania. Welcome to Lifting the Line, mate. How you going?
Thank you. Yeah, no, going well. It's great to be here.
I'm glad we can have you on. Hey, tell us a bit about how you are in the bricklaying industry, because we're having a bricklaying talk podcast today. It's all going to be about bricklaying. But tell me all about it.
Well, I'll start from the beginning, basically. Started my apprenticeship 22 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Worked for a father and son crew. Worked for them for the full extent of my apprenticeship. And then once I finished, they signed me off and I became a three-way split in their business. So
That's really rare. That's really rare for someone to go straight into being a business owner at the end of their apprenticeship.
Yeah. I got thrown in the deep end, but I think I'm all the better for it from going through that experience. It was scary at the start, going from a secure full-time job as an apprentice to three-way split in a sort of business setup, and then having an apprentice and a labourer to be accountable for as well. So, fast-tracked learning, I guess. So
yeah, absolutely. And that was in the residential space that you were working in? Were you doing cottages or what were you doing?
Yeah, so it was residential. We were doing a lot of unit developments for a particular developer, which was good. I think through my apprenticeship, we laid the same 3 types of brick colours from the same brick company for 4 years of my apprenticeship. So, I got really good at cottage work basically, and just it set me up to progress through into other work. So
So how long were you partners and working with the father and son team?
So I was partners for about 7 years. Jason, the son, left a bit earlier. Work was drying up, and it ended up just being me and Jason's father, Terry, working together for quite a few years. Which was good. Like Terry, I owe a lot to Terry. He was a really old school brickie. He knew his stuff. I remember the first day of my apprenticeship, he told me, what was it? He's forgotten more than most bricklayers know. So that was his attitude, and he probably did. I knew what a Welsh arch was in my first 6 weeks.
Yeah, right.
So he was, it was all about teaching me, showing me. He was really passionate about brickwork and teaching brickwork.
I reckon so I'm the same. I like the guys that I did or finished my apprenticeship with, they were exactly the same. Father and son team. Father didn't work much, and I'm sure that he'd forgotten more than he knew now. Like, it was just ridiculous, and just a wealth of knowledge. Yeah. But that 7 years after your apprenticeship, that's just like doing a whole new traineeship and apprenticeship into business ownership too.
Yeah, pretty much. It sort of set me up for what I'm doing now, basically. So have those early years of operating as a sole trader, as in a partnership, learning from the guys that taught me, and then sort of implementing my own strategies. The more knowledge I gained over the years.
So that was a 7 years. So you've been in the game for about 18 now. So what's happened for the next 10 years after that?
So at about the 7-year mark, or a bit before, Jason came back. He'd done a few other jobs, so he came back to work. So at that point, I was looking to sort of take on an apprentice and be a little bit more ambitious and build something where they were more sort of happy to stay where they were. They had a really good thing happening. So, I sort of left on good terms and, started on my own.
Yep.
Put my brother on as a labourer.
Yeah, I think we've all done that.
Yeah, it didn't last as most family brother situations don't. But, went out, had another bricklayer working for me. And, just went from there. We were doing really good work. We really took pride in what we did and, put on an apprentice and just gradually gained momentum from there.
Yeah.
We're working between a smaller volume builder in Hobart and a few other smaller private builders. Started to get a little bit more in demand. Like we had a reputation of doing quality work. So I was encouraged to take on more guys to, so we could do more work.
Yeah.
Which worked for the most part, but with more employees becomes more responsibility and more
challenges.
It's probably the biggest thing I underestimated was people management and other people's issues outside of work that make their way to work that I ended up having to deal with and manage.
Yep.
So that, progressed into having a decent sized working crew. And then I got approached by a block and brick company. They asked if I was interested in commercial brick and block work.
Yep. Was that a local company that approached you or was it a national company?
Local company, Island Block and Paving.
Oh, yeah, Island Block Paving, yep.
Yeah, they're a really good company to work with. They've looked after me a lot over the years. So they didn't have anyone in the commercial space to supply to. The main commercial bricklaying company dealt with another supplier.
Yep.
So they set up a meeting with a commercial builder that they were dealing with.
Yep.
And we had a conversation and they asked the questions of, how many guys you got, rah, rah, rah. And, we secured our first project, which was a primary school, Lander Valley Primary School.
Yep.
And I remember first day on the job, all my blocks turned up, all coloured 30 O's and 20 O's. I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's a hell of a lot of money. There was like $30,000-$40,000 worth of blocks, and I'm thinking, oh, geez, what have I got myself into? But just pushed forward and got the job done, and we made money.
Yep,
which was important. And went from there. But at that time, the commercial work was sort of scarce for me. It was hard to break into.
Yep.
So I'd only pick up the odd commercial job here and there. Yeah. So that was a really difficult period of time.
It's a balancing act.
Yeah, to maintain a crew capable of doing commercial and then mainly still working in residential. But then your commercial jobs are, 30 days from the end of the month. So 60 days you're waiting for your money. So huge juggling act, and it was super stressful. So we pushed through, and
How did you manage that? Because I'm imagining you're doing residential work. You probably got a crew of 8 or 10 guys to be able to fulfil those commercial contracts, maybe more.
Yep.
How did you manage that cash flow management and having enough working capital to get you through that, moving from being residential into a different world?
Well, a lot of the early days, it was pretty scary. It was week-to-week sort of stuff at times, just making it work. There was no real system. I was still pretty young, new to the whole system, and, I just had to use my best judgment, keep, in mind what was coming up, how to just juggling things, basically.
Yeah, so like we've spoken plenty of times on the phone before, and we've talked about our journeys, and I know that when you were moving into that commercial world, you really lent on a mentor going into that. And I know I did that when I went into bigger work as well, and I reached out and needed a mentor. And that's part of what we do with Brickies Network. It's all about connecting bricklayers so they can have mentors that understand what they're going through.
Yep.
What did that do for you?
It sort of gave me confidence, knowing, having some insight into what to expect, especially like we hadn't even really worked on a commercial site before. So it's just knowing how the dynamics of a commercial site operated, like with your foremen, project managers, who to talk to, where's, who to trust. Like just that can be a big one. And he had that sort of knowledge. He had worked for all the companies and he knew the people quite well. And he said, this particular person, be wary. This guy is good. Lean on him. Just little advice like that. Little real personal touch to this person is good. This person stay away from.
Yeah, right. That's really interesting because I think we've all had that situation in business where we've probably trusted a supervisor for a company or someone like that, and they've kind of cut the legs out from underneath us. But then other people, they really get what you need in your business and you're trying to help them with their business, and you can form that relationship. But that's valuable advice, especially getting into the commercial sector.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you've been in the game for almost 20 years now. What's the big changes that you've seen? Because we've spoken about this, there's so many different responsibilities that you have as a business owner now than what it was nearly 20 years ago. So what's the big things that you've noticed?
Well, technology with phones is a big place to start in terms of productivity with your guys, especially your younger guys that have sort of grown up with a smartphone. In my apprenticeship, there were no smartphones. It was, I was over 20 years old when I must have been mid-20s when smartphones came out.
Yeah.
And, the impact that has had on not just bricklaying but the whole industry.
Yeah.
You have where a productive moment is now wasted with a check of the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a huge change.
That's actually probably something that most people won't realise in bricklaying. Bricklaying as a trade, it's about being productive all the time, picking bricks up, putting them down, whatever it is. So there's a lot of motion and it's reliant on you being consistent over the day to actually get the job finished. Not like concreting where you pour it, they screed it off and then they'll wait 2 or 3 hours for it to cure up and then they'll go back in and screed it all off. Bricklaying, for you to make your money in bricklaying, you've got to be at it all the time. So, and that's definitely, and you'd remember this when you were doing your time and right through that. If you were finished doing what you're doing, you went and helped the other guy so he could lay more bricks.
You go around the corner, you spread your mud, butter some bricks up for him if there's extra people on the line, or jump on in the middle. There's always something. Grab a brick carrier, load up some bricks. Like there's always something you can be doing.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I don't get on the tools much these days, but when I do, and I love to lay a brick, I'm pretty sure a lot of the guys are like, what the hell? Why is he telling us to load up around the corner? What a lot more happens when I'm working because I can see all the extra things that can be done.
Yeah.
Instead of,
I've got a spare moment, I'll just have a quick look on, did I get a message or, I'll flick through Facebook or TikTok or whatever the hell it is. Technology in that respect hasn't helped bricklaying productivity.
No, productivity, no. But it does have its advantages. We utilise check-ins and things with an app. It helps, log hours, guys pay hours, and it helps us, say on an hourly rate job, how many hours, and we can prove how many hours the guys have put in on the job. And it comes to maybe a dispute, you've got it all logged. There it is. They can't log in if they're not on the job. So yeah,
exactly right. So that technology side, that's a big thing that's changed. As a business owner, what sort of changed? I know there's a lot of responsibility and probably more risk and things that we take on now. What's the big differences that you've noticed from when you first started being a business owner all the way back then till now?
Well, I suppose back then all the safety that has come in.
Yep.
I don't even think when I started there was a test and tag system. So all the way back from test and tag to what you have now with your silica controls, there's a big mental health push as well to think about. There's the swims. The white cards are even more difficult to get now. So if someone comes to work for you and they don't have a work card, a white card, it's not a half-hour process to go through. It's like it takes a day or more for a guy to get a construction card to come onto a job site. So that's a big thing I look at now before considering anyone, is to ensure they've got a white card before they come onto the job.
Yeah. When you're employing guys, because you've got 10 plus staff working for you, and being in the commercial space now, you can sometimes need 20 or 30 guys, and then you might only need 10 on the next job for a while, and so it can be a bit of a ride like that. When you're looking for new staff, what's your process that you think about with that? Do you consider time in the industry, qualification, drug testing, all sorts of, what do you consider?
All of that comes into play at some point, but also a lot of the time, and depending on how busy you are, you're very restricted on the available guys to put on, especially in Hobart. It's not a lot of bricklayers. So you're sort of restricted to who's actually in the industry and who's available. So that's
first thing is finding someone to start with.
Yeah, pretty much. And then it becomes pretty obvious if they're going to be any good or not. I think you can tell pretty much with a phone call and how somebody speaks to you what they're like.
Yeah.
A lot. There's a lot to be said about how a person communicates.
Yeah.
And if you ring me up and you tell me you can lay 1,000 bricks in a day, there's no chance you're getting a job.
Yeah. I always think that bricklayers are good at trying to sell the candy over the phone, that they're awesome.
I've heard it all. I'm pretty confident. There's no boasting that I have not heard to justify why they should be given a job.
Yeah. It's I think that thing that you said, that just finding a bricklayer that actually has a moderate level of qualification and skill is a big industry across Australia. It doesn't. It's not just Hobart. It's across Australia. Pretty much everywhere that I speak with bricklayers now, just finding someone that has a standard. And I say this in the nicest possible way, we've kind of lost what a good standard is in bricklaying. 30 years ago, we had 60% of bricklayers in Australia had done an apprenticeship. Now we've got less than 40%, but we've got 30% less bricklayers in Australia than we had 30 years ago. So now the majority of bricklayers that are out there have never completed an apprenticeship. And I'm not saying apprenticeship is the ultimate benchmark, but there was a standard that you were expected to meet. So that's that's an issue right across Australia. That's a difficult one we're tackling as an industry.
The quality has gone out the window a bit in terms of pricing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're talking a per brick, everyone's trying to lay as many bricks as possible. They're not thinking about how the overall job is going to look at the end. They're just, see the $2 a brick, every brick is a $2 coin, and get as many as you can in, and quality sacrificed.
Yeah. Yep. Do you think that that's a main driver for quality drop? Do you think that's the main driver for quality drop?
Basically, yeah.
You talked earlier that you've gone through, it's 18 years. It took a long time to build that reputation. And you said that, it took us a long time to build a reputation because bricklaying is a long game. It's you have to prove yourself. You have to prove a consistent quality, reliability. Bricklayers are known for being horribly unreliable, so you have to prove that over time and be consistent with it, but then also build yourself to a point where you got that workforce to be able to be reliable and hit targets and schedules. So that's a real long game. If you're constantly under price pressure and getting someone else come in and say to the builder, "Oh, I'll do it for 10% less or 20% less," it's very hard to build that team to do that.
Yeah, that's right. It limits what you can offer, basically. You sort of pigeonhole yourself into a spot where you need to lay this many bricks and you can only afford to pay this many guys to do it, and you're stuck.
We haven't talked about this before, but I've spoken about this with a couple of other bricklayers just recently, that when you're stuck in this per thousand or per brick price mode, when you're quoting jobs, there's a point you drop below with the amount of guys that work for you that you can't do the job because you haven't got any economies of scale to cover running costs and wages. So I was talking to a guy the other day who his bricklaying business, once upon a time he had 6 guys working for him. He goes, "Oh, I used to make pretty good money at $1.90 a brick." He goes, "But now work's slowed off. He's slowly lost his guys down, and we did some numbers for him, and he's got 2 guys working for him and himself, and by the time he pays those guys, there's not enough left in the tank to pay all the running costs for his business. So his brick rate actually has to go up because he's got less guys on." And people that run a bricklaying business a lot of the time, they don't really understand that. They're like, "Well, actually, the less guys I've got working for me, I can't do it cheaper. I actually have to do it more." Because they haven't got any of those things. So is that something that you keep an eye on and think about?
Yeah, definitely. You need to know where you sit, where your numbers are. You can't work off guesswork. You need to know. You need to know what you need to get in, or at least it's hard when you're working on the per thousand rate, especially for a volume builder where your price is locked in. You got nowhere. You have no play in that.
Yep.
That's why I'd much rather quote work. You look at the job, you know what's in it. You can have a rough idea of how long that job's going to take to do, and you can build your price around that, and then put in your margins with your supply as well, and you come up with a price to do the job, and you're not locked into a per brick figure. Yeah.
You said something to me on the phone the other day, and it really stuck in my head, and I wanted to ask you a bit about it. Is you said you've got your shed in Hobart in a particular industrial estate, and you said there's 4 plumbers or 5 plumbers that have got sheds. There's 4 or 5 electricians that have got sheds, maybe more. Other industries, HVAC, air conditioning guys that have got sheds in there, but you're the only bricklayer, and it looks like bricklayers. How come we can't? You said, how come we can't scale our businesses like they do?
Yeah,
You know? And it really stuck in my head, and I wanted you to talk a bit more about that because that's a really interesting thing for a bricklayer to say.
Yeah. Well, I suppose when I look at those businesses, and they're all plumbing and electrical, have that licensing backing and some sort of accreditation to keep their license.
Yep.
And I believe that is a big factor
Yep.
in those businesses being able to scale.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps those businesses in line with their pricing because they have a point they need to price to. So, like, I've spoken to a lot of bricklayers and they say, well, I don't know why we can't just agree on a price and nobody goes below that price. Yep. That'll never work. You need to be able to know what your costs are, be accountable to your business and your team with backing from a license and accreditation and regulation. You fall out of, below where your price needs to be, you lose your license. You can't operate.
Yep.
So that will keep prices where they need to be.
Yep.
And enable you to scale your business.
I've spoken to a lot of people about pricing and licensing over the years. Bricklaying's a really interesting industry where we fall under the builder's license. That's what happens, and in construction terms, we're deemed as low risk. Like electrical could get electrocuted, someone could die, plumbing, probably not going to die with the plumbing side of it, but there's a high financial risk if something goes wrong. It gets blocked up, you get sewage come up through the floor, it floods the house, people can get sick from those things. So there's a high risk, but they're also a national license. It's state regulated, but it's a national license or a national qualification in that respect. And so there's a bit higher entry to get into it too. You've got to pass a lot more things. Like bricklaying, that qualification thing that I talked about earlier, it's a very low entry level. But I agree with you about accreditation. If you want to be a bricklaying installer, you should be accredited by the manufacturer and the building organisations say, yes, we're going to use these guys because they prove that they meet a certain business standard. They meet a certain quality. They have certain management behaviour around them when it comes to communication and the way they carry themselves, and they're training new workers. They're putting on apprentices and things like that. That's really important for the industry. But also those other industries that you're talking about, they are supply and install.
Yeah.
Those guys, they manage the whole part of their job. Bricklaying's really different to that. Most bricklayers that work in the residential sector, not so much in commercial, but in the residential sector, they don't even supply their materials. They just supply labour. They don't even have control over those things that could increase their productivity and or either make a little clip on the top of the product as well, because what I have noticed is the manufacturers will sell direct to the end client, the builder. They don't support the installer to help with that, where paint companies, plumbing suppliers, electrical suppliers, they all really support the installer.
Yeah, there's so much potential in bricklaying that hasn't been tapped into. And supply is one of those things.
Yep.
And once you have a supply element, you have a control to what you do. You can offer more to the builder for your services.
For sure.
You're organising yourself. Like, you're not having the builder hold your hand. They order your sand and your bricks for you. Good little bricklayer come along. Well, here's your wall. You take control of your trade, and you're more professional. You can offer a service.
Yep.
And the more service you have to offer, the more attractive you are to be used by, building company.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think if bricklaying businesses really tapped into that type of model, then they would be able to partner with building companies for future growth. Like we're in a downturn at the moment, and so there might be building companies out there that are only building 40 or 50 homes a year. But in 3 years' time, when the construction industry kicks off a bit more, they're going to be building 100 homes or 150 homes. They're going to need quality, reliable bricklaying contractors that could supply a package to them consistently and meet their schedules and grow with their business.
Yeah.
So there's a real opportunity now. Like you said, like there's so much potential in bricklaying now for bricklaying business owners to actually go, we can partner with some companies to really grow with them.
Yeah.
But traditionally, it's been building companies playing off bricklaying businesses against each other for price in the short term instead of thinking about the long term.
Yeah. I feel it's a responsibility for bricklayers to support our industry, do more, be a better bricklayer, be a better businessman.
Mm-hmm.
And that will lift the standard of bricklaying because, bricklaying's not in a great place at the moment.
No, it's not.
It won't be there much longer if, people like me and other bricklaying business owners don't step up and, take the bull by the horns and offer these services and drag the industry up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. Bricklayers have to become better and lift, but also I think the industry stakeholders have to help them lift as well.
Definitely.
And that's a big part of what we're doing with starting Brickies Network 2.5 years ago is it's a network. It's for everyone to come together and go, actually, we can work together and talk to each other and raise the industry. I was so excited that you said you wanted to come on and have a chat on the podcast today because I've had a couple of other bricklayers that have said they would come on the podcast and then they've pulled out at the last minute. And when I've had a discussion with them later on, they've said, I got really nervous, but I was fearful that if I share any wisdom, someone else will know what I know and they can come in and undercut me.
Yeah, that is everywhere in bricklaying. And it's that scarcity mindset that is always there with bricklaying. Like you always think that there's someone coming to get you. The boogeyman's always there. Someone's coming in with a cheaper price.
Yeah.
And there are, but there are always other avenues. Like let them come in for a cheaper price. Let them hang themselves by their own rope.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
That's a great way of putting it. I've spoken to a few brickies about this over the years, and I always sit there and go, let them come in and undercut you because bricklayers are so finite now. Like there's so few good quality bricklayers in Australia now across the board. It's unreal. And it doesn't matter how many bricklayers you bring in from overseas or you can't get a bloke from down the pub and teach him how to lay bricks in 3 weeks. Just doesn't work.
No.
And unless you've been working in a country or in a region that does the type of work that we do here in Australia, then if you're coming in doing from rendered work or some other countries where they lay, clay bricks and coat them with render, they're a completely different type of thing. But those guys, if they come in and undercut you and go in below cost, then they won't be able to afford to employ workers to do the work anyway. So those guys have taken themselves out of the real market. Let them have that work. Focus on doing the work that you can do and building your reputation, and you will go ahead in leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
So those guys, they're cutting the nose off to spite their face, and eventually they'll go broke and leave the industry anyway. So there's actually no future in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The amount of times I've lost jobs to someone coming in cheaper, I couldn't count. Like it's happens every year.
Yep.
But every year we've continued to, we haven't gone away. We're still here.
Yeah.
And we're still going strong. Probably, the best we've probably been, really.
Yeah. That scarcity mindset that you're talking about, that, that people are worried about not getting the work, like, that's actually a valid feeling for bricklayers. Like, the amount of guys I speak to over the years that say, oh, that's the way the industry is. Like, there's always someone's going to undercut you. Bricklayers are their own worst enemy. I don't know how many times I've heard someone say bricklayers are their own worst enemy. But I get that scarcity mindset because a lot of the time their clients do play them off against each other. And there is a worry that if I don't accept that price, I won't have any work next week or the week after.
Yep.
And that's valid for a bricklaying team. The builder comes up and says, oh, look, we're really quiet at the moment. I've got to squeeze up and tighten my prices.
Yeah.
I need you to drop your price by 20 cents a brick. Well, you might have been only making 10 cents a brick profit if you worked it out. So you're actually dropping your price below cost. The simple fact is you can actually go fishing for free, or you can spend time with your family for free. You can actually go and get a job working for someone else if you have to.
Yeah.
Dropping your pants just to have work, it doesn't work out for the industry in the long run. It doesn't work out for yourself.
Yeah. No. And volume builders are shocking for that.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just, things will tighten up. Brick price will drop by 10 cents.
Yep.
And then bricklayers, they'll just cop it.
Yep.
They won't argue the point or just have a conversation with the company. You don't have to carry on. Just have a conversation and highlight why this 10-cent drop is going to impact you. You're just losing profit. Your whole business setup is suffering.
Yes.
And they don't understand that. They don't understand how tight things are already.
Yeah.
And especially on volume builders.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you're right. Volume builders are renowned for that in bricklaying. And because we do that 98% of our work in new construction, we don't really have anywhere to diversify with our skill set. Unlike the painter can say, yeah, I'm working in the new construction, but he can also go and do a repaint for a house. He's got an option to go somewhere else, Plus he's got the option of supply and install and get a clip off the paint as well. So, he's got other options. Bricklayers don't really have a lot of options, especially if they've thought they were building an ongoing relationship with that volume builder.
Yeah.
And they do all of their work for that volume builder. And then the builder says, I'm going to drop your price by 10%. Then suddenly, if I don't accept it, all of my staff are out of work. That's the thing with bricklaying. You pledge allegiance to one builder. That's really risky.
Yeah.
As a business owner, because you lose that builder, you've lost your whole business.
Yeah.
But we're sort of taught to pledge allegiance to a builder and, I'm going to give you 20 jobs,
Yeah.
Well, that's all good and well if you're scheduled out, but building companies don't sign contracts with bricklayers for long periods of time either.
No.
Tell us a bit of a story about that, because I know you've got a story about contracts with builders for a long period of time.
Yeah. So we were doing work for 2 building companies. They did quite a lot of work, volume builder stylish, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I proposed to them that, how about you take one of my crews on hourly rate and you use them however you want. You get them, you drag them to one job or the other. Doesn't matter. Is the hourly rate for each person, invoice fortnightly. And they were really happy with that. I presented it well. It looked really good. It worked for both parties.
Mm-hmm.
Presented that to both building companies, had them on 14-day payment terms. They paid on the day every time, had them on alternating fortnights. So every week I had a payment coming in from either crew. We were doing probably more than just laying bricks. We were resetting starter bars around garages, organising different bits and pieces. So there was more to it than just picking up a brick and putting it down. There was a fair, probably as the stuff you'd normally do anyway on the job.
Yeah.
And that was, it was working really well for a while. I was in the process of having a contract drawn up by a lawyer for these guys to sign, so we had something in writing and we were locked in for a period of time. The lawyer dragged her feet, didn't get the contract. Bricklayer came in cheaper on a per brick rate. When the building companies did the breakdown of the hourly rate compared to the bricks, they told us we were too expensive. But they didn't understand. I tried to explain, but I don't know if they could understand that it's not just, you're not paying just for a brick to go in, you're paying for all this other,
everything extra that's involved to complete the project.
Yeah. And we end up losing both positions. They got other bricklayers in and, opportunity lost, but we went on and did other things. But
do you know how that worked out for that builder in those builders in the long run with that particular guy that came in cheaper?
Well, I knew the reputation of the guy, so I knew they weren't going to get the same service. So I didn't follow up. I don't know how. I know that particular person's not doing the work for
not doing the work for them anymore.
For them anymore. So I can't imagine it ended too well for them. But
because I remember when I started laying bricks, I was in Ballarat in Victoria, and I was a young guy just getting into it. And I remember sitting down with the construction manager from a company called JG King. So they were a large steel frame builder. They're a big one in Victoria now, but they were quite regional in the Ballarat area. And I went in and I said, I want all your brickwork. And they said, oh, no, we don't do that. And I go, well, how can I invest in putting on all the workers to do your work? You're telling me you've got 30 jobs for me to do, but you won't sign a contract for the 30 jobs. So I've got no security that those jobs are actually going to come to me.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, no, why would you want to do that? There's a lot of risk involved. What if you can't fulfill that contract? And I went, that's my responsibility to fill that contract. I was like, why wouldn't you commit to a team that does great quality? And I worked out very, very quickly that when things slowed up a little bit in their schedule, they quickly came back to me and said, oh, we want you to drop from 550 1,000 at the time to 500 1,000. Yeah. And I just said, no. And I went to another building company. Yeah. But I worked out very quickly that they wanted the ability to play me off against someone else and squeeze a little bit more out of it. And I feel like that was really short-sighted.
Yeah.
They told me, we look after the same bricklayers all the time. No, they actually go through bricklayers all the time, different bricklayers all the time. So there's no consistency of quality for them because of that. So the relationship does me head in, that they're not building those relationships.
Yeah. You just triggered something in my memory that going back to the electricians and the plumbers.
Yeah.
How, electrical needs licensing because of, death.
Yep.
And plumbing, flooding and all that sort of thing. Bricklaying has a huge structural element to it as well.
Yeah.
Which probably should come under some sort of regulation.
Yeah. So when I've spoken about that in the past with builders, they just go, well, the building surveyor ticks it off and we've got engineering that they have to follow, so it all falls on them. That's mainly in residential. Like in commercial, there's definitely a lot more structural stuff when it comes to, block work, core field, a lot of those sorts of things. But still there's an engineering that we're supposed to follow that meets that. But that does get stuffed up too. I know that there's been quite a few jobs where blockworks had to be pulled down because the bricklayers haven't tied the rods together properly and all the rods are pushed to the face of the blockwork and the steel's not sitting properly and it's all cracked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's definitely elements of that if there was more accountability on the tradesmen,
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
much better.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about block work,
Mm.
I've noticed a lot with, I'm just going a bit of a sideways topic, with 150 series block work, especially the 1548s.
Yep.
We've noticed they're being engineered with much larger steel, so like up to 16 mil or 20, even 20 in some circumstances.
Yes.
And how, like, you can keep your blocks as clean as you like, but there's not a lot of room in that block to get concrete down.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that as well. I'm just about to build another place, but it's solid concrete blocks.
Yeah.
And the whole lot's out of 1500 series, or the 1501s or the 1542s or whatever they are in the inside. And there are places there where there's 16 mil starter bars, 16 mil horizontals in the bond beams, and I was like, it's going to be hard to get concrete down some of those, no matter how clean I make them. Yeah. I noticed that too, and I'm not really sure why that's happening. Why is it a space issue that we're not going to the 2001s, or I don't know what it is. I'm not really sure.
One of our guys had a conversation, I can't remember, with somebody anyway around this, and I think the gap, they told him the gap only needed to be 8 mil because the aggregate in the core fill is 7. But it has to go through a screed. There's a 7 mil part to that aggregate, but it could be 10 mil long.
Yeah, exactly right, yeah.
You know, like, there's no chance of core fill getting down that 8 mil gap.
Yeah.
So I can see that being a structural issue on some projects because, if you don't have like your clean out course at the bottom, there's no way to ensure you've got your concrete's getting to the bottom.
You're kind of one of the leaders in the field in Tassie now as a bricklaying company, especially into the commercial side of things. Where do you see bricklaying going in Tassie?
In the way it is at the moment, I believe it's not sustainable. I think bricklaying will disappear if something's not done about it, which I'm trying very hard to make some changes. There won't be a bricklaying industry in Tasmania or probably nationally, but there's huge opportunity to make it a lot better, but I'm not confident. I've got exit strategies in place for other business opportunities outside of brickwork.
Yeah, and I think that the industry needs to listen to that. If guys that are running larger businesses in bricklaying that know their numbers, know what they're doing, if they're openly sitting here on a podcast saying, I've got exit strategies, the industry needs to listen, and they need to listen quickly.
Yeah.
Because you're not the first bricklayer that I know runs a successful bricklaying business that hasn't got exit strategies because they actually don't feel like that in 5 or 10 years' time, this could be sustainable for them.
Yeah. Or move into a niche area. But on scale, it's, I even had a construction manager trying to compare my block rates to concrete precast panel. I can't put up block work for the same price you can put a panel up. That's ridiculous.
Mate, this has been a fantastic conversation.
We could go for hours.
We could keep talking for hours, and I do want to park it and say, let's do it again.
Yeah.
And talk again in another 12 months or less, because I think you're a visionary in what you're doing, and I know that you've got a system in place that does work, and so many other bricklaying business owners in Australia could learn from what you're doing down there.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers, mate.